Hey, everybody. My name is Valencia Woodard. I am a board certified Christian counselor and a member of the Chosen Church. I am also the founder of the nonprofit organization Breaking the Cycle of Dysfunction. I have my beautiful sister right here with me who is going to introduce herself.
Hello, I am Tequila Lynch. I am a seventh and eighth grade math teacher. I am a part of BAM House of Refuge, where I also serve as one of the youth pastors and the secretary, apparently.
Okay, so as you all know, and for those who don't, April is SA Awareness Month. So I'm not going to say the S, but Assault Awareness Month. This is a month that a lot of people try to avoid. This is a topic that is not discussed, especially in the church. As you know, we are not victims, we are survivors. So we're just going to be talking a little bit about what we experienced, what was the side effects of what happened, just to raise a little bit of knowledge. If you do not know, 90% of victims experience assault from a family member, a neighbor, a friend, someone that they know. Only 10% comes from strangers. So I just want us to keep that in mind and to just be more watchful, especially when it comes to our children. So the first question I want to get into is, what were some of the side effects you experienced after being assaulted?
So some of the side effects I experienced honestly was insecurity, and just feeling like I wasn't worthy enough, or I want to say feeling like dirty, like like tainted. Is if that
That's
makes
how I
sense.
felt.
Okay, I was
I
like,
get it.
if that makes sense, like feeling like what's wrong with me would be something that I think about still now is what's wrong with me. Another side of effect is honestly becoming too active sexually, just being out there, like trying to find my security in having more partners than I should have. Not knowing my worth was another side
Mm.
effect, and being at a young age, that's really bad. You should know your
Yeah.
worth. Yeah.
Most definitely. I know for me, mine's didn't happen during childhood. Mine's did happen during adulthood, but I experienced depression,
Mhm.
anxiety, PTSD. I had really, really, really bad panic attacks. I'm talking about so bad, girl. I would be shaking and crying, and my kids wouldn't know. They were like probably 3 and
Mhm.
1 at the time, so they didn't know, but it was just, like, just having that particular episode and not explaining to them, those were some things that I had went through. I think the scariest one was sleep paralysis.
Oh yeah.
Ooh,
Jesus.
child, I remember one night, it was after it had happened, after he had forced himself and then he went on about his day, what went on about his night, and I was literally trying to get up to clean myself up because after it happens, I can't describe the feeling, but you're, like, disgusted.
You're literally
Like, you wanna vomit.
and
This
scrub
like,
like
yes,
like Stony off, set it off.
no, for real, and I felt like it was another human on top of me, closing my eyes down,
Mhm.
holding my arms down. I couldn't move. I couldn't even speak. I couldn't even open up my mouth.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think that was like that's a side effect that I don't wish on nobody
Yeah, and I
was being
think because
assaulted.
I was so young, it was hard for me to kinda understand. I was 9 years old, so I'm
Mhm.
trying to understand, like, what's happening? What's going on? And then trying to grow up and figure out, like, you really don't know what everything is. And then by the time you're older, you're like, "Oh, that makes sense." Like, so that's what was going on. So for me, I literally was just stuck. I recall myself just being there, and then just letting, just like, you don't know what's going to happen, so you just kind of freeze, and then you think back on it and you're not sure, like,
Mhm.
and now that I think about it, I do have depression and anxiety, or I did, and PTSD that, it's
Oof.
coming up as I'm getting older, but it's something that happened a long time ago. So it's like, oh, what is all of this stuff? Okay, I probably should, figure out what this means.
It's a lot, especially I went through it for 8 months straight.
Mhm.
and the suicide thoughts, the
Yeah.
tormenting
Mhm.
that comes when you are in that process, whether no matter how, I don't care if it happened one time, the tormenting that happens after that's like you're haunted. Cause like you
Mhm.
said, it's like, what's wrong with me? Then you start questioning yourself, like, well, am I worthy? Like,
Mhm.
why you choose me out of all the people on
Out of all
earth?
the people, what is written on me that says I'm gonna do this to her? Like she'll be the
Yeah.
one that I'll be able to get away with this with. That's literally the question I ask still to this day. Like, what was
Oh.
it?
And
I'm
some
like,
people know they can get away with it when they know their reputation and their character. If you're a well-known person,
mhm.
more than likely you're able to get away with
Mhm.
assault,
Mhm.
especially a child, because other people gonna be like, oh, well, they wouldn't do nothing like that, or I don't
Mhm.
know that side. You experience different sides of people. Like people get the sweet me. Some people might get the me where it's just like, I really don't fool with you like that, but I'm gonna act like I fool with you because I got the heart of Jesus, but your story probably gonna be
Yeah.
different from somebody that go to my church.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's what it is. Like I used to feel like, am I too nice? Like, because I'm a Cancer, I'm a little crybaby. So it's like maybe they knew like, oh, she ain't gonna say nothing. Like and I recall those being said to me, like, ain't nobody gonna believe you. Nobody will believe you.
The manipulation
Mm-hmm.
that comes when you are being assaulted, that was the big one because it's like, ain't no man gonna love you like I love you. Don't nobody want you. You
Mm-hmm.
worthless. Like, ain't nobody gonna believe you if you say something. I wish you would say something. Like, I was
Mm-hmm.
living with this man at the time. I left my stuff to move in with him,
Mm-hmm.
so he took that control.
Yeah.
So with the narcissism and the manipulation, when you're not educated on these things, it's so
Mm-hmm.
easy to miss it.
It's so
They're
easy.
professional narcissists, people that have this trait that think it's okay to just tell people, you're not worthy, you're worthless. If you use your voice, it's not going to work. It's like they mute you before you even have the opportunity to even process
Mm-hmm.
what just
Everything that's going
happened.
on. Yeah. Yeah, that's how it was for me. And I'm again 9. So it's like the
Yeah.
age gap and like what happened. You were an adult, I was a child. So, and it's just the similarities. Like it's just crazy.
And I went through sexual immorality even after it happened. So I had already grew up with self-esteem issues. I had a
Mm-hmm.
lot of trauma and dysfunction. So even when that happened, and I believed it because it was reassurance, because that's how I felt as a child. So it's like, okay, so now I'm experiencing sexual immorality. I'm doing things I know I shouldn't be doing,
Mm-hmm.
but it's like I'm trying to find myself. Because
Mm-hmm.
now you done took away my worth, my pride, like so many
My
parts of
strength.
me is destroyed. So I'm thinking in my mind, if I give him what he wants, he won't hurt me. Like
Yes.
I won't have to, you feel me? Because I done already gave him
Mm-hmm.
what he want. When I say that's like a tough space to be in, and the first thing people want to do is label you as, oh, she's overly sexually active, or oh, she's a, but it's like, what is the root? Why am I acting out? When I went through my phase, everybody was like, oh, you need to get yourself together, pull it together. You
Yes.
shouldn't be doing that. You're in the church. I was a babe in Christ. I was only 6 months in Christ in my
Mm-hmm.
walk. But it's like nobody never cared to say, what happened?
What
How did
happened?
you get here?
And that is so important because a lot of people say a lot about women and don't get me wrong, assault, your body reacts to it differently. Each person is different and clearly we both were like that overly,
Yeah.
but in my mind, and I'm just speaking for me, I can't speak for her, but in my mind it was me taking my power back. Like I mean,
Mm,
cuz here I am. Like that was me getting my confidence back.
yeah.
But once the right person showed me, and I'll be honest, it took for me to be about 24 and I'm
Mhm.
26 for somebody to say, this, you are worth this. What happened to you does not define you. It
Ooh,
is not who you are. What you did in your
Jesus.
past does not define you. It is not who you are. You do not have to keep being this way. This is not what qualifies you as a wife. This is not what determines if you're a
Minister.
girlfriend. Like this is not it.
Minister.
And it took for the right people who asked the right questions versus the people who just looking on the outside like, a little
Yeah.
hoochie mama. No, ma'am, you don't know my life. And you didn't ask me my life from from family to friends to even churches I've attended, because the church I'm at now was not the first church I was at. And they are the church that loved me back to life and gave me those tools I needed to get through. And they honestly are the first church that said, go ahead and get counseling. Go ahead and sign up for some services so that if this happens to your children, you can help them, you can guide them.
A blessing.
And I had to go from 9 years old to 24 figuring it
Jesus.
out on my own until I met the people that I'm around now. And it's like, and now me in my role as a teacher, I can apply those same skills to the young people who are experiencing that exact same thing.
Yeah, when I was at my previous church, I met with my pastor. I just told him that there was mental, verbal, and physical abuse. I didn't even get in detail about the other part because I knew he was going to call the police because he was very serious. And he's like, "Do I need to put you in a hotel? Like, what is you don't look good." Like, when I say he was there, he was there. And he's
Absolutely.
like, as I'm talking, telling him bits and pieces of what I wanted him to know, he on the phone texting, like, trying to see who could rent me out of space, an apartment, because we had realtors at the church um at the time. And after we met, like a week later, God worked it out. But it's funny how God worked it out and gave me my place. I was 8 months. 8 months every single night, my underwear being ripped. I got holes. He was refusing to buy me underwear. And I remember, I kid you not, I called my kids that I said, "Hey, I'm unstable. I need you to keep them for me for a couple weeks," because I didn't know how long it was going to take me to get a place. I dropped them off at daycare. He picked them up, and I was driving to work. And that was the very first time in my life that I heard God's voice. He said, "If you trust me, I got you." But before he said that, I said, "God, if he touched me tonight, somebody's getting buried, and it's not going to be me."
It's not gonna be
Girl,
me.
the scene was planted in my head and everything. And I kid you, God is so funny. That man did not touch me for 3 weeks straight. God knew I was going.
Yeah, God works. God is funny. I will say that God is funny, but I'm glad that that thing worked out the way that it was supposed to work out, and that
Yeah.
just confirmed like God always has His hand on your life.
The very last month, he kept telling me it's almost over. I didn't feel like it was. I wasn't seeing nothing shake. I wasn't seeing nothing moving. Everything was still. And I'm like, God, I'm going to church. I'm praise dancing. I'm serving. I'm doing. But my pastor just said on Sunday, being busy don't mean you productive. I was just busy. I was just doing stuff because I didn't want to go home because I knew what was going to happen. So I would purposely Bible study, choir rehearsal, praise dance. Then you got events, like whatever. Whenever the church was open, I was there.
Just so that you could avoid being in the same
Exactly.
space, which is not productive.
Not productive at all. Shout out to PC for that message to Chosen Church.
Period.
What were some of the emotions you experienced?
Some of the emotions, again, I was a kid, so I was scared. I was very
Ooh.
scared to tell anybody. And what's funny is the way that my parents found out was I wrote a letter on a piece of paper and I ripped it up because I was scared to show
Wow.
it. And the one part of the paper that got to my mom through by way of my niece. Shout out to my niece. She was 1 years old, walking around, just how 1 year olds just walk around and touch stuff. And she grabbed the one part of the paper that did not make it into the trash can that said, "He raped me." And
Oh,
even
wow.
when that paper was given, I still denied it was my handwriting. And all of my siblings were like, "Nah, this your handwriting, Tequila. Like, this ain't mine, this ain't hers, this ain't hers. She can't write. This your handwriting." And I finally said what it was. And I was just scared. And then immediately I got like defensive because I was blamed. I'm a dancer. Everybody know I'm a dancer. And I praise dance, but I also, get my love. And he was like, she was dancing nasty in front of me. And I'm like, "Oh, you gonna lie like that?" And I had to say to my mom, "Mommy, why do I know what this looks like? Why do I know what that looks like?" And in all transparency, I felt like nothing was done about it, even as a kid. But it's like it's a family member. What do I expect? And then you go through those moments of like sad and confusion. Why did this happen to me? And even just like a few weeks ago, I was so confused and I just reflected back on it like, God, what is on me? when like what is written that says let's do this to her? Like what is it?
Yeah.
Cuz other things have happened recently where I've realized I have shut down as a response to what I've been through, and I've just allowed an
Ooh,
encounter to happen, and it shouldn't have happened, but that was my survivor instincts. Because I was gonna
say
say that was
that.
me being a victim. No, that was my
Say that.
survivor instincts that said, I don't want to get hurt. So I'm gonna just allow it to happen. And then I'm gonna cry and release it to God afterwards. But you get confused. And that's really just what it was. I was
Mhm.
sad, I was scared, I was confused. I can say worried. I know one time, like I seen this particular family member at a birthday party, and I literally sat there and I froze. And he approached me and was just like, he was drunk, but he was like, I apologize for everything we did, what everything that happened when we was kids, and da da da. And I'm just like, my body is like,
Yeah, you
and one of
freeze
my
out.
sisters was like, shook me out of it. And she was like, Tequila, I could see in your face you were crying out for help. And I was like, I'm glad
Ooh.
you could see it because I didn't know how to say it without causing a scene.
Ooh, that inner child was triggered.
Yes. And I'm like, I am
Jesus.
grown. How do you still have this effect on me? And I'm grown. How is it? So that was a question too. How in the world does this thing that I thought I had got over affect me? And I'm 20 something.
Did you really get over or did you suppress it?
I think I suppressed it. Now that I think about it, when it's like, is I was like, I suppressed that thing. And now I'm in therapy, I'm figuring it out.
Talk
I'm like,
therapy.
oh Lord, I was just hiding it. I was just hiding it. It was just down there. And then little things that men would do, I would just, ooh, or I would freeze up.
That is a side effect people don't talk about. I am the type of person, just from what I experienced in that relationship, it triggers me being with the person who is overly sexually active.
Mm-hmm.
I can't be with someone who wants to do it all the time. That's triggering to me because
Mm-hmm.
it's like, are you ever going to lose self control? If you do
Mm.
lose self control and can't handle yourself, are you going to push yourself up on me?
Mm.
Like those are the things that comes to my mind.
Yeah. Is there ever gonna be a moment where if I'm not in the mood or I'm not ready, are you just gonna be like, well, and take it because that's gonna shut me down? That's
Yeah,
gonna shut me down. And it does actually.
it
It
most definitely
it
does.
does.
Just the feelings of fear, resentment, like brokenness. Like I say, the brokenness that you feel after it happens is like
Yes.
your heart, like you feel your soul leaving your body.
Mm-hmm.
Like you're gone. You become numb. Like I can't describe it.
Numb is the feeling. That's it. You're just frozen in time.
You know
You're
how
numb.
people do drugs and then they shoot up and then they just sit there in the movies and then they just don't, like that's
Just
how
be
you are, but you're not on drugs.
you're just that's your that's your defense mechanism.
Exactly.
Is to just, all right, let me just get through it.
Because
Let's just get
we're
through it.
not taught to how to cope. Are there any programs?
We're
Families
not
though?
taught how to talk about it and get through it.
That part.
That's one of the things I really love about breaking the cycles of dysfunction because I'm like, we got to talk about these things.
Yeah.
And we have so many, it's not stopping, it's continuing. The cycle is repeating, and we don't
Yeah.
know how to talk about it and how to get through it. So we come up with our own.
Well, people are ashamed and they're embarrassed because we carry
Mm-hmm.
that guilt,
Mm-hmm.
that shame, those questions that are tormenting us. What, why,
Why?
basically? Because that why turns in why me, why this happened, why, so
And
it's
you
just
can't ask the person.
they don't even know.
They don't know. They
They
don't
really
know.
don't know. And it's just like sometimes I ask God, like, what goes through people's mental? What makes you
What
want to
in
look at a child
a child?
of all people? There's so many prostitutes, but you choose a child
What makes you wanna even just take advantage? And there are
of
so
a little
many people who are
person.
willing to be like, "Throw me that $40, I got you, cuz." Like, they walking around right now. I seen about 5 driving here. You don't have to take it when it can. I
Well,
don't know.
it's easier for children because kids don't know how to say enough is enough. Kids can say, stop, you're hurting me. but they're not us.
Yeah.
They can't say, okay, enough is enough. So for you, when did you say enough is enough if you've reached that point and actually made the decision to forgive? I know you did say you mentioned therapy, so that's a big step.
That's a huge step for it's a lot of other things going on that got me in therapy. But one of the things I really had to realize, honestly, if I can be fully transparent, was my daughter being sexually assaulted. She was sexually assaulted when she was about 3 or 4. And when she could tell me the descriptive words, and again, by a family member, and it's just like, hold on, now, whoa. And I started to notice different things in her behavior changing. And it's like, for her to only be 9 now, she
Mhm.
deserves to not go through life with the same questions I went through life with.
Jesus.
I want better for my children. And my younger daughter has not expressed that she has, but even so, I just want them to know like they're protected regardless. As far as forgiveness, I thought I forgave. I really did. And then my bishop said one time, and we were talking about forgiveness, and he said, if you think about that person and you're still mad, or you think about what they done wrong, you didn't forgive them. And I'm like,
Mhm.
ooh,
Mm.
it's a couple people I didn't forgive that I thought I did. And I was like, okay, if I see him right now, would I be able to just say hi and keep moving? No, I wouldn't.
Yeah.
I would still have those questions. Like, do you remember way back when in about 2000, about 6, 5?
Right.
Why you do that? I'm going to have those questions. But it's like, I have to give it to God. And then honestly, what made me want to take the steps to forgiveness is I truly desire to be married. And I do not want to
Mm.
take that insecurity,
Jesus.
that shame, that guilt, that hurt, that pain. I do not want to carry it into my future with
Mm.
my God ordained husband. I
Yeah.
cannot take that with me. And then I have young people looking at me, not only my children, but young people at my church, young people at my job, young people from just any summer camp I've worked there looking at me like, how did she get through it? And they're all experiencing all of this. And it's just
Yeesh.
like, okay, how can I help them? And I can't preach something and not be doing it myself. So let
Yeah.
me take the proper steps to truly try to forgive. And I'll say that I forgave, but I always pray every night, like, Lord, help me to forgive. Help me to forgive and not remember the tainted parts, not be so
Mhm.
stuck on that, and then forgive myself
That
for
part.
believing that it's my fault.
Yeah.
Because I've had young people come to me and say, it's my fault. It's my fault. It is
No, it ain't.
not your fault.
No, it's not.
Just like it's not my fault. I did not know what was going on at 9 years old. Just like even at 16, you do not know what is going on. It is not our fault.
It's not. And for me on my journey of forgiveness, I knew I forgave the person. I seen a person 3 years later in Walmart. When I tell you he was ducking and dodging, making sure. Now the old me would have nuck if you, but I probably would have threw a can at his
And
head.
should have. No, I'm just kidding.
But I realized like there was no feelings there. And then I had went through a deliverance process in November.
Hmm.
And it was with my therapist. I have a faith-based therapist, and I'll never forget the entire process, but God revealed to me that the enemy sent him.
Hmm.
He had an assignment to complete. His assignment was to make sure that I fulfilled the assignment of committing suicide because he tried to take me out when I was a kid. It didn't work.
Mm.
I tried to commit suicide when I was a teen. It didn't work. I tried to commit suicide 3 different times during this process. It didn't work. So the enemy was using him. He said, "Okay, I've been hanging on to her for years. You the one that's gonna
Hmm.
take her out." And when the enemy realized I ain't the one,
Okay.
so it was like, just during that deliverance process when that happened and that was revealed to me, it was just like, wow, the enemy, like, you gonna attack me like that? Like you that?
That's what it is. The enemy is in your mind. He gets those. That's what my issue is. The thoughts come back in my mind, like, remember. And I'm
Yeah.
like, oh Lord, I be pleading the blood of Jesus over my mind. Lord Jesus.
And that's you have to learn how to take captive.
Mm-hmm.
I think churches, and that's one thing I absolutely adore about my pastor. He always tell us take captive of your mind, control your thoughts. You got
Mhm.
the spirit of self-control, utilize it.
Yes.
And a lot of us fall into depression, fall into anxiety, suicide thoughts because we don't know how to take captive. We
Mhm.
don't know how to switch that thing when the enemy say, "All right, you ready to kill yourself?" Nope, but I'm ready to kill you.
Absolutely. I second that, and I'm a helper.
Like those are things that really, really, really needs to be taught in our churches, and it's only very few people that is teaching that.
Absolutely. I thank God for my bishop. Just like you shouting out your pastor, I'm gonna shout out my bishop because
Okay.
that's who it took. And another pastor who has since passed on, rest in peace, Pastor Rita Back. She literally inboxed me and she was like, listen, that Battlefield of the Mind book, she's like, read it, take
Mm,
notes, take it in, because what is messing with you is your mind. You are literally at war with your mind, and the devil knows he can get to your mind and attack you and break you down and get you back in a depressive state, back in a suicidal state. But the
mhm.
moment you take your mind back, he ain't gonna know what to do with you.
And that's what we have to realize. We have to understand that God has given us authority and
Hmm.
power, but we don't know how to exercise it. We don't know how to utilize
Come on,
those
helmet of
tools.
salvation. Yes. We absolutely have to use those tools.
So it's so important that we learn how to wear our armor of God, how to
Hmm.
take captive of our thoughts. The Bible, if you read your Bible and study, the schemes of the enemy is there. The strategies are there.
Hmm.
Now, the strategies are not all the same, but you know he's sneaky and we know he attacks the mind, like things that he attacked.
And he don't have no new tricks.
He t-
He just try to come
he's
about it
so
a different
played
way.
out.
Like, boy, I know what you doing.
He's
You
so
ain't
played
even
out.
clever for real.
Like
You ain't even clever. Like, I'm just being a little what? Like, once I realized, like, God, oh devil, Lord, tell him quit playing with me because I'm a little smarter than that. You got a strong, smart soldier right here. Why do you play with me like that?
yes. So my encouragement to somebody who's actually experienced or currently experiencing sexual assault, if you feel like no one is listening to you, if you feel like you don't have anyone to go to, I want you to be your own advocate. I wish I was my own advocate at that moment when it happened. I don't care if nobody would have listened to me or whatever because of who this person was, but don't be afraid to speak up. That's what you have teachers for at school, a school counselor. Find you a mentor, find
Hmm.
you somebody that you can confide in. If your family doesn't want to believe you, you were not alone. Yes, you can pray, but prayer is not enough because faith without works is dead. You're gonna have to put in some work in order for you to make it through this process. What you got before I
I'm
get to
I'm gonna
minister?
also encourage y'all to get into some counseling. It is not like they like to say that it's wrong, but it is not wrong. Okay. And she actually, I'm about to be utilizing her a lot and giving out her information to the students that I teach. It is okay to get extra help from a professional. Okay.
Mhm.
I'm so upset that I waited this long to receive counseling. And please remember, it is never your fault.
Never.
Never your fault. Do not blame yourself. It is never your fault. Get that, say that to yourself. Okay. It is never my fault. Cause it ain't.
And one thing I love encouraging my kids, and I even tell my homegirls this out if they going through something, I'll be like, you got this.
Yeah.
I know it looks so bad right now, but you got this. Don't let suicide take you out. You got this because somebody needs you.
Mm-hmm.
Somebody needs your story. You are going to be the open Bible for somebody. There's going to be
Mm-hmm.
somebody you come in contact with on the street who has never read their Bible a day in their life, but your story is going to be the reason why they even want to experience an encounter with Jesus.
Absolutely. It won't always be like this. It's turning around for all of us. Come on. Yes. I was singing, but I don't know how to sing.
So I guess that's the wrap. Thank you so
You're
much.
welcome. I'll
We
do
had a
this
good
anytime.
conversation. So thank y'all for tuning in. We appreciate you so much.
Absolutely. I was glad to be here. I enjoyed my
Bye.